Welcome to the Pursuing Happiness podcast, where we discuss living the good life, what that means, and how to do it. Thanks again for tuning in. On today's episode, we have a very special guest. My friend Phil Lamar, he's the owner of the Live Well Lounge and the co-owner of Broker Brothers, which is an insurance company specializing in health insurance. He's also a phenomenal drummer. He plays on our worship team at our church, Seven Hills Church, which currently has about 1.5 million monthly listeners on Spotify. So this is not a small band. And yeah, I feel like with everything he's got going on, multiple businesses, helping out at the church, on the worship team, all of the things he's got going on, I feel like you are just always so poised and just genuinely, I feel like a happy person, an exciting person to be around. And you never sacrifice your kindness for anything. I feel like no matter what you've got going on, and I am a business owner myself, so I know that no matter how much you plan, you can never just get it perfect, and there's always going to be stresses. And so with that, I'm going to turn the floor over to Phil, let him introduce himself, talk about his businesses, and yeah, thanks again, man, so much for coming on.
Well, thanks for inviting me, Jake.
Absolutely.
It's an honor to be here. Your studio is gorgeous. It's beautiful. And you've told me a lot about the vision that you have for the podcast, and I think it's really special. I think each of the topics for all episodes, I don't know if you're allowed to say how many episodes you're doing or not, but for the whole season that you're releasing, I think it's genuinely going to help people. So I love the vision. I love the studio. I love what you're doing here. So thanks for having me on, man. Glad
Absolutely.
to be here.
It's a pleasure. And I don't know if you noticed, you're our first guest. So I've done the first two episodes by myself, and it is so
There's
weird.
no pressure.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's so weird sitting here talking into a mic for 50 minutes or whatever it is, talking into a camera. So it's a pleasure to have you on. And one of the things, well, I guess we'll get right into it.
Yeah.
So on this question, we're going to be a little bit biased because we're both entrepreneur mindset and we're kind of driven that way. But what do you feel like, maybe outside of income, what do you feel like is one of the best things about being self-employed, or how has that positively impacted your life?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think to answer that the right way, kind of back up and talk about my journey to this point. So I didn't always know I wanted to be self-employed. Growing up, I was exposed to a level of entrepreneurship. My dad and my mom was a stay-at-home mom, homeschooled my siblings and I, but my dad worked in corporate America in the newspaper industry. And although he worked a 9 to 5 in corporate America, I want to say maybe when I was 8 or 9, he had a small real estate portfolio. So he bought several multifamilies, rented them out. I remember as a kid going to them, cleaning up between, tenants during their leases. And so I was exposed to a small level of entrepreneurship.
Yeah.
I still didn't know I was on the self-employed journey, if you will.
Yeah.
And I never really thought about it. It was never something that was really on my mind. It was just something I never really thought about. And I remember when my dad made his first leap of faith into entrepreneurship. I was 18 or 19, and he got let go. He was in corporate America. The 2008 crash came and survived the first round of layoffs, and I believe it was 2011 or 12. He got laid off from Cincinnati Enquirer, and he decided he was going to start over from scratch and start a business. And so I remember I was 18, 19, and I remember watching him take that leap of faith.
Yeah.
With 4 kids, a wife, cars, mortgage payment, food you have to put on the table, insurance, heat, the whole thing, going from scratch and having to provide for a family and taking that leap of faith. And I remember seeing that, and it was really cool to experience starting from nothing and building something up. And for me, I knew I cared about ministry. I grew up in the church. My parents, I'm so glad they did. They raised my siblings and I in the church, and that is the number one. People. They are that is the number one most important thing in my life is my faith. Above all else, that's number one. And so, with that being said, I knew I always wanted to do something in ministry. Always been passionate about that. It's always mattered to me. And so, I grew up in the church. I grew up serving. I grew up really probably the church 3, 4, sometimes 5 times a week. Just volunteering, serving wherever I could. And that's what I wanted to do. That's what I'm passionate about. And long story short, I knew I wanted to do that. Long story short, there's a bunch of details in there, but for the sake of time, when I was in college, I ended up dropping out of college and taking my first. So I didn't make it.
Yeah.
But I ended up dropping out of college to start a business.
Yeah.
In my father's footsteps in the insurance industry. So it's 2017, fall of 2017. I started working on my pre-licensing, and then in 2018 was the official beginning. Of my business.
I remember
journey.
this. I remember when you started doing this, when you were just going through the licensing thing. I think that was, we were in like college night or something like that. And I remember you going through that, and I think we prayed over that whole situation, and now you own a insurance brokerage. It's insane. It's funny how things kind of turn back around in life.
It was crazy. 2018 is when we started, and just very, very blessed. When I met Hallie, her grandpa, between my father and then her grandpa, who was a business tycoon in the coal industry, previously the steel industry.
Gotcha.
That's a whole podcast.
A whole other episode in itself.
He's a legend.
Yeah.
He's like truly a legend, and so just getting exposed to that, learning from him was really special. And started Broker Brothers in 2019. So I own that with my father and my brother. Family business. We're small business, focus on health insurance, life insurance, and Medicare. And then recently, Live Well Lounge started.
Yes.
That's a whole podcast within itself of why we started that.
Yeah.
But yeah, Broker Brothers, Live Well Lounge, and to all of this, to answer your question, you asked me, what's the number one positive impact that self-employment has had on me? And I would say by far it's helped me accomplish my calling.
Awesome.
That's the number one positive impact. And that's specifically implementing ministry in the marketplace. So that's what I'm passionate about. My drive and my love for ministry in the church has never gone away. I've just found my calling, and that's how can I connect business and ministry? How can you take ministry into the marketplace?
Yeah.
So that's how it's impacted me the most. It's helped me really follow in the steps of my calling. And then of course the things that follow with that, providing for my wife. We don't have kids yet, but someday being able to take care of my wife, to take care of our future kids. Yeah. And then just to be generous. Just loving on people, loving on friends, family. So that's what I'd say is what's positively impact everything.
I'm sure you guys get this question all the time. Actually, at my wedding, when I made the announcement after we had just got wedding, I just went ahead and addressed this question. Don't ask me when we're having kids. We don't know when we're having kids, but you get that question probably all the time. So, but okay. So we've talked about the positives of it. Do you feel like, and I know I do, but do you ever feel like there's a time where you wish you just kind of had like a normal job, or at least had the comfort? Or do you feel like there's ever a situation that's just like got you at your knees ready to just give up, and you're like, oh my gosh, I wish I just had like a normal 9 to 5?
Let's think. Last Monday, last Wednesday, last Friday. Kidding, but I'm not kidding. All the time. Yeah. Absolutely. Yes. 1,000,000%. I think the first time I really wanted to call it quits. I wanted to toss the towel. I haven't really shared this story outside of like my close friends and family. Yeah. But my first year in business was a nightmare. Yeah. It was a disaster. It was Murphy's Law. Anything that can go wrong will go wrong. Yeah. And that happened. So in the insurance business, how it works is when you write a policy, when you sell a policy to somebody, how you get compensated is from the insurance company. Okay. Does that make sense?
Yeah. So you're a broker because you work with multiple
Correct.
companies. Okay, gotcha.
So some brokers do this. We don't do this. This is a value add that we try to bring this value to our customers. We don't charge broker fees, period. We don't charge any fees. We don't charge hourly. We don't charge anything at all. Gotcha. We only get paid if we write a policy helping somebody and it comes from the carrier. So when a carrier is compensating an agent or a broker, there's two ways you can get compensated. Okay. You can either take what they call an advance. So say you're making your commission for a policy is, let's just say $10 per month is what you get paid for the policy. That's $120 a year. Yeah. An advance would mean the insurance company advances you the whole 12 months. Okay. Up front. Okay. Or you can take it as earned. As earned is where the insurance company just pays you the $10 each month that the policy's on the books. Similar to how a CFP or a financial advisor, they have assets under management. It's based off of your assets under management. And insurance, it's your book of business. So the policies you have on books is how it works. So being new, there's no salary.
Yeah.
There's no benefits.
Yeah.
There's nothing. It's if you don't hunt, you don't eat.
Yeah.
So,
were you working too when you started that, or were you just?
I was, yes. Okay. So I was working.
Same when I started.
So it was it was very, very, very minimal. Now I was very blessed and fortunate. I lived at home. My parents.
That's huge.
So I only had to pay for my car, my gym, my insurance. I have rent. Again, I'm very blessed. I would only pay if I were going out to eat with my friends. My parents load up the pantry. My parents are the best people in the world. Amazing.
They really are.
They always took care of my siblings and I, which I'm very blessed on. But yeah, there's no salary. When you start, it's nothing.
Yeah.
And so at the time, Hallie and I were seriously dating, and I'm having to figure stuff out.
Yeah.
And I started off strong. However, after I think it was month 3 or month 4, I had 4 companies that I helped. I set up an account, got their employees enrolled in some health insurance. And by chance, one of the companies went out of business, which was awful. It was very sad, horrible.
Yeah.
Another company, turns out that they had some shady business and they actually fled the state. It sounds bizarre. They actually fled the state. Their employee showed up to work. They had 3 employees, showed up to work, and their bosses were gone. Owners left. I don't know what they were doing, but they fled for some shady business. So that's 2 accounts that I opened.
Don't exist 40%,
anymore. The third one, they just decided that they didn't want to roll with it after a month. And the fourth one, it was a similar case. There was just some miscommunication. So long story short, I took advances. Being new, I needed cash to fund business expenses because being in real estate, marketing is not free,
especially up front.
Driving miles to visit customers is not free. There's overhead. You have insurance. Companies have insurance on themselves. There's expenses, and so
that's true.
I took advances to help pay for basic expenses.
Yeah.
And what happens is if you get an advance and a group cancels, you get a chargeback. So it's where the insurance company basically says,
pay that back.
Hey, we're not receiving the premiums you owe us. So my first couple months, I was in the hole.
Yeah.
Right off the bat, month 3, I was in the hole by thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars.
It's brutal.
And so to answer your question, yes, right off the bat, I wanted to quit. The only reason I didn't quit was my wife, Hallie, and then my support system. So I had really good friends, which I know we're going to talk about that a little bit later, about your environment, about people in your life, and I had amazing parents. And so they helped me just, you take it in the chin, you just put your head down, and you just go, you get in the trenches and you work. You hustle, and I got out of it. But that first year, essentially had a $0 profit.
Yeah.
We were in the negative. I was in the negative my first year.
Yeah.
Talk about wanting to quit.
It
really took 3 years before it made sense.
It's funny that you say that, because for me, real estate was the same way. I did, for the first 3 years, I worked a salary job where I worked full time. I didn't disclose this. A lot of people, unless they really knew me, I guess I didn't want people to think that I wasn't taking the real estate serious, so I just didn't let people know unless they asked that I was working a full-time position. But in addition to everything that I was doing with the real estate, I was also working full-time, and I was just completely balls to the walls as much as I can. And then same thing, it's like you're doing it for no money and you don't know what doesn't work,
right?
And you have all of the upfront costs that you're paying for, usually out of some other budget, or you have another job, or you're just living off savings or whatever it is. So I would say, especially in our industries, which is being insurance and whether it be lending and being a realtor, all of these different things, those first couple of years are just not for the weak. And I think one of the good things I think about that is now, so I'm 6 years in now, I have my daily stresses like you, but I feel like it is so worth it and it's so sweet because I know what, and I think you could probably agree with this. I know what hell is like. I mean, hell in terms of being, just doing everything that you can possibly do and it's still not working, and then having to like keep the faith. And I love what you said about, like you said, your friends and family, and having that support system. And I think you could probably agree with this too. And I don't want to put words in your mouth, but for us, and you mentioned this at the beginning of the episode, but having faith in just like, just a mighty God that can, get you to where you need to be, and trusting 1,000%. Like, hey, where I'm at right now isn't going to be where I'm at in 3 years. And I just need to keep grinding. So that's really special. So.
You're 1,000%. It was about year 3 when it made sense, when there was a shift. And it's funny because now it's come full circle. So that was with Broker Brothers. Broker Brothers it really is helping so many people. And it's great. It's
You're
rolling.
In multiple states now.
Texas. We have 13 states we're in. But
that's incredible.
So it's going great. But, I thought those days were over. I thought those days were over, and now it's come full circle with Live Well. I remember like year 4 into it. I'm 8 years in to Broker Brothers, and it was about year 4. I'm like, I'm so glad those days are over. I never have to go back to that. And now it's full circle because it is square one again with Live Well. It is that same hustle. To where every day matters, every day counts, and it's just a hustle. And we had coffee the other day. And there's a couple of times where I'm like, I think I'm done. I think I'm just done with this. Let's just call it. And then I tried, but you just have to, you can't give up. You have to hustle for sure.
I agree. This is going to be a little bit like question 1. What do you feel like the single greatest freedom? It doesn't have to be the single, it could be multiple, but the greatest freedom of being self-employed. And so, like, for example, I feel like, being able to, I still work obviously a lot of hours, but being able to schedule my business around my life instead of having to schedule my life around my business, meaning like if I'm working for somebody, and that's just me personally. I know we've talked about some times where we did wish we had a job as well, or something like that, just some normality. But again, I feel like you and I are both kind of led to this after talking with you. But what do you feel like a great freedom you have from being self-employed or from being a business owner?
For sure. I would say I have a primary answer to that, and then I have some ancillary secondary things to that. But before I get into that, I do just very briefly want to preface, because it made me think of a conversation I had 2 years ago. Hallie and I were on a business trip, and I was talking to another self-employed guy. He was a broker, an insurance broker, and we were at a round table having dinner, and he was just, the way he was talking really bothered me, because he was kind of downplaying the importance of the team in a business. Okay. Basically saying like, if you're self-employed, you're better. If you're self-employed, you can do this, this, and this. And if you work for somebody, that's lame, blah, blah, blah. And it really bothered me because he just, I don't think he really got the full picture. There's no, in my opinion, there's no this person's more important or this person's more important or you should be self-employed or you should work for somebody. At the end of the day, it takes the entire team. And, you can have a visionary, you can have an entrepreneur, they have a vision, they have a dream. But without an amazing team, it's pointless. It's never going to go anywhere. You have to have a team to help bring the vision alive. And I just want to talk on that real important, that no matter what, for your listeners, if you work for somebody or if you're self-employed, it doesn't really matter at the end of the day of, what you want to be. What matters is what can you contribute? How can you make wherever you're working the best it can be? How can you make the product, the service, the organization, how can you make it the best it can be? And it takes everybody.
I love that,
Pray for me because I'm a Dallas Cowboys fan, but I'll use this example. I'm from Dallas, Texas, but Jerry Jones is an amazing businessman. He might not be the best a franchise owner, even though the boys are valued at $9 billion.
Yeah.
But Jerry Jones owns the Cowboys, but he has to have a coach. He has to have a team. He has to have players. He has to have a roster to make the Cowboys work, to have players on the field, which is going to bring fans into the stadium, which is going to sell tickets, which is going to sell merch. My point is, it takes a team. So for any of your listeners, whether you're self-employed or not, everything matters. At the end of the day, whether you're self-employed or you work for somebody, the goal is to make your organization the best it possible, and everything's going to win.
Yeah.
So I just want to preface that real quick. But I would say the greatest freedom of being self-employed for me is helping my calling come to fruition. We talked about it a little bit earlier, but I found my calling is finding that connection between business and ministry in the church. Yeah. How can you make ministry enter the marketplace? Yeah. And one example of that is there's business women, businessmen that will never go to church. Yeah. They don't want to have anything to do with church. They might be, and for various reasons, deeply offended or hurt by the church. Oh, yeah. And I love that in the marketplace, being self-employed, we have a very unique opportunity to share the love of Christ, to be a good example, to be an ambassador of heaven to people in the business marketplace. Show them like, hey, I understand you've been offended. I understand you've been hurt. Some horrible things may have happened, but you can be a light. You can be an example. Oh, yeah. There's been amazing opportunities that I'm so fortunate that I've been entrusted with, where I've been able to invite some friends to church, where I've some business guys that awesome. I know they want to live life. They want to do what they want to do. And now it's really cool to know that they go to church and they found a new meaning of life. And so that's one part. But then also, I really do believe, and this is a podcast for another time, I'm very passionate about this, but I do believe in the business place, our job, based off of our faith, our job is to find every single way where we can expand the kingdom. Yeah. And for us, it's our business. Yeah. How can we generate revenue? Yeah. How can we be generous to the church? What can we do to expand the kingdom? Yeah. That's what drives me. That's my mission. And so I would say the greatest single freedom of being self-employed is I'm able to accomplish that. Yeah. Because I love that. Because you have the time, you have the opportunity to create, to build, and to make something. Yeah. So I would say the number one thing. I love that. And then, of course, time is so precious. Time is an amazing freedom. Hallie and I have the opportunity to travel, to go on spontaneous business trips or go on dates, and time is definitely. And lastly, is just being generous, loving on your family, loving on friends. Yeah, that's awesome, man. Yeah, I love what you said, and it's funny because as I'm listening to you, I'm thinking in my mind too, kind of what that means. And you're talking about your calling or your purpose or your vision and all these different things. I wake up each day and I start the morning off with, a prayer, and I'm talking to, it's God, what do you have for me today? I mean, I don't get me wrong. I have my plans and I have things that I'm working towards and my calendars and goals and all these different things. But at the end of the day, it's who do you need me to help today? Yes. Just, mixing that faith very much with your own business. And another thing too, that I guess kind of thinking about, I've probably grown closer to God in this because I have had to. I mean, there's been times where I'm literally on my knees please let this house sell. I need this house to sell. Yeah. And so you have, I think it requires, you have to have faith because you mentioned, to be a business owner, you do got to be a little bit crazy, or at least somebody that's willing to run into the fire, because it's going to come almost no matter what. And I think even you and I were talking about that, the first couple of years, especially, it's you literally are trading everything for very little to nothing. And then you just have to keep going. And then you have hopefully some mentors or some people that's been through it that are kind of, coaching you through that, or at least motivating you through that. Because I was thinking about this today. This is a random thought I have, I think too, it is both a gift and a curse. I don't want to say a curse. I think it's a gift, but it's probably the most frustrating gift. And I think you probably have this from knowing you, to be able to see the
potential in somebody before they can see it in themselves. And so like wanting to make everything better, I feel like I'm constantly wanting to like motivate people and help people and all that stuff. So it's exciting also because why I say it's a gift is because like being able to see other people through like their calling or getting them through that hard chapter. And whether that, like you said, whether that's they're working for a company and they want to get a new promotion or take on some more responsibility, like just making wherever it is, whatever you do, putting your all into that and making it. So like, for example, when I was working at the company that I was working for and doing the real estate, like I didn't give them the slack of I didn't give the company that was paying me a salary like slack, or they just got like what, like, no, that was like what I did first because out of my respect for them. And I did everything I could do to make that place better. And I feel like to be at least a successful entrepreneur, you kind of have to have that seed watering mentality, to want people to be better and to want to help. I think we talked about before, let's see here. We talked about time, and I know it's funny because I know you, and I thought that was going to be, when you mentioned you had some secondaries, I figured time was going to be one of them because that is so huge. And I know I've talked about time leverage and how important that is to be able to kind of buy. Exactly, off the first podcast. So one of the things too, and I know I've talked with you about this, that I feel like is a huge blessing at being a business owner is helping other people, other contractors, other businesses in order to, you can't do everything. Like you said, it takes a team, right? So it's like being able to get to the point where you have enough business and enough income to where you can start to outsource things. So like having the grass mowed, having the house cleaned or the office cleaned or whatever. So you're not going in on time where you should be sleeping or hanging out with, for me, hanging out with my son or things like that. Like having the freedom to be able to do that. That's another thing, I guess, just to kind of add to, to that. So, and I think we kind of talked about this already or got into this a little bit, but as a successful or a relatively successful entrepreneur who travels, who's happily married, what are some of your tips and tricks for leveraging your time, or what are some of the things, I guess, that you would do to manage time, to create time, or to outsource time?
Well, I would say, first of all, I do think learning how to leverage time for me is a constant work in progress. It's almost like an art that some people naturally are incredibly punctual, and good for you, blessing. I don't have that. I have to work really hard to be punctual. You can ask my ops manager for LiveWell or my ops manager for Broker Brothers, Riley or Jake. They can tell you firsthand. It's very typical for me to say, hey, push back the meeting 30 minutes. Hey, I'm going to be 15 minutes late. Hey, we need to reschedule the call here. So one is first off by saying it's a constant work for me to have to learn to manage time and to leverage time as much as possible. But I would say there's 3 things, basic practices that I've applied that significantly helped me. Not perfect, but it significantly helps.
Let's hear them. I know this is going to help some people. So.
The first one's calendar blocking.
Yes.
Calendar blocking has been a game changer for me. What I do every week, I just use Apple Calendar on my phone. I have it linked to my Outlook. So it's really, and I have a shared calendar with Jake, Broker Brothers Ops Manager, and I have a shared calendar with Riley, LiveWell's Ops Manager. And what we do is we calendar block out the entire week, the Friday before that week. So we have everything out. We have the days we're working. We have the meetings we're running. We have for Jake, the enrollments for new clients, for renewals for existing clients. Every IV we have booked for LiveWell. Every single thing, we calendar block it. And we do everything in our power to live by the calendar. Yeah. Of course, curveballs happen. Emergencies happen. Stuff happens and you have to navigate. You have to deal with the curveballs. That's part of it. But that's been really helpful is just living off the calendar. Yeah. And that even means, even if you can't accomplish everything that you have calendar blocked, moving on once that calendar block time is over. That's been challenging for me because once I start a project, I like to just finish it. But what I do is, say you have send out new vendor follow-up emails from 12 to 1 p.m. and you haven't done it and it's 1 p.m. Normally, historically, I'm just going to keep working on it until it's done. But what I've been doing is 1 p.m. comes around and I just stop. I just say, okay, 1 p.m., it's over. I didn't accomplish it in the time that I needed to. So I'm going to go and calendar block it to finish this on this opening slot that I have Thursday or next Monday. And I'll go to the second thing. That way I'm on track as much as possible. So calendar blocking has been so helpful, and specifically sharing a calendar with my key employees. That has been a game changer because we're all on the same page. We all know what's going on. It's really helped with that. The second thing, I learned this from my dad, and it's really smart, but it's called the upfront contract.
I haven't heard of this.
The upfront contract. It's really a time protector strategy. So what we do, and it's not a sneaky tactic. It's really just to honor your time, to honor your employees' time, and to honor the customer's time. So everyone's time is precious, and the goal is to honor everybody's time. And so the upfront contract is where you go into a meeting, a Zoom meeting, an in-person meeting, a phone call, whether it's scheduled or it's a walk-in or someone calls into the office. And the first thing you do is you set upfront expectations. Okay. It's the upfront contract. You're basically saying, hey, this is the game plan for this call. I'm just letting you know now so it doesn't affect the end of the conversation. Yeah. So here's a great example. Jake, Broker Brothers Ops Manager, so good at this. Yeah. If we have a customer call, they might have, just call in out of the blue, they might have 20 questions about their policy, rightfully so. Yeah. And one thing I pride ourselves in is we have great customer service. So if somebody's going to call, we're going to take the time to help them. Absolutely. But Jake might have an enrollment scheduled 15 minutes from that time he gets the call. So what Jake will do is ring, he answers the call. Thanks for calling Broker Brothers & Co. This is Jake. How can I help you today? Someone might ask a question, and what he'll say is, hey, Jake Burdine, thank you for calling. Would be happy to answer your question. Just want to let you know I have another meeting in 10 minutes from now. I'm going to have to get to that call. So when the clock hits 1:32 or 1:30, I'm going to have to hop off this call and jump on that other call. I just want to let you know now so I don't disrupt your time, just so you know ahead of time. Yeah. That has changed everything. And my dad taught me that early on, because if you don't, phone calls can go 45 minutes, 60 minutes. Yeah. A meeting can go, it's scheduled for 20 minutes and can go 30 minutes, 45 minutes, an hour. And then before you know it, the appointments you have after that, you're now dishonoring your future clients' times. Yeah. So how to leverage time, that has been so key, is the upfront contract. So when you go into a meeting, hey, so glad we could be here. Just want to let you know I have an hour and a half to get somewhere. Just want to let you know in case we have to end the meeting early. Yeah. And so that has been a game changer of protecting time. Not necessarily how can you leverage time, but you have to protect your time. Yeah. And so again, that's one thing is we call it the upfront contract, setting expectations up front. That way you're not lost in a rabbit hole somewhere. The third one is by leveraging time is by scaling your team. So for me, I have a chronic delegation issue. Yeah. And I've gotten a lot better. I have a couple really good friends in my life that have challenged me on this. I'm so thankful for them. Like, Phil, why are you doing this yourself? Phil, you don't need it. You have an amazing team. I get that, Delegate that to them. They're going to do better than you would do. Phil, why are you having to do that yourself? My wife, Hallie, and then I have 3 specific friends that are always on me about this. And I'm so thankful because that has helped me get to the point to where I hired people. Yeah. So going back to what we talked about, it's not a self-employed versus working for someone. It takes everybody to make the vision happen. And I just got caught in the rat race of just going around and around because I had to do everything myself. Yeah. And it's impossible to win the fight against time if you're doing it yourself. Yeah. At some point, you have to start finding team members to delegate to. Yeah. And so hiring Jake and hiring Riley again, who are the ops managers for Broker Brothers and Live Well, has changed everything for a couple reasons. Number one, the things that I've delegated to them, they're way better at those things than I am. They do a way better job. They take care of those things way more than I ever, even if I tried to. And that's freed up time for me to not be working this. I love this concept here. I'm very passionate about. It's helped me work on the business instead of in the business.
Yes. I love that.
Being in the business, working in the business is you're doing the day-to-day stuff. You're taking every call. You're sending every email. You're doing every quote. You're prepping every, everything.
Yeah.
Whereas working on the business is building up a team to work in the business so you can think big picture.
Yeah.
Okay, what if we start opening up this new line of products? What if we open up an office here? What if we partner with so-and-so down the street? What if we do this? What if we do that? And ultimately, that is a win for everybody.
Yeah, absolutely.
I was talking with somebody about this, I don't ever want to over delegate, or I don't want to do this or do that. I don't want my employees to have to do stuff I wouldn't do.
Yeah.
If they have to take out the trash, I should take out the trash. And I get that there's truth to that point for sure. But at the end of the day, as an entrepreneur, if you can be working on your business and building it, at the end of the day, your business is going to get bigger. Think about there's collateral here.
Exactly.
You're going to get more revenue.
Mm-hmm.
Your employees are going to get more raises. You're going to be able to hire more people and provide more jobs.
Yeah.
So really it goes, and this is, some friends have told me this, really it's actually disrespectful to your business and your employees if you're stuck in the trenches and you're not working on the business.
I love that.
Because
That's interesting.
At the end of the day, if you can be thinking big pictures, you can come up with ideas. You can think big picture stuff to build it.
Yeah.
Your employees are going to get raises. They're going to have better jobs. You're going to build your team. You're going to hire more people. Everyone's going to win.
Yeah.
So that's the third thing on managing time, is building a team by scaling your team. So, yep.
Awesome. I think that's a phenomenal answer. And yeah, that is, I can see how that's so important. I do a lot with the real estate, and I too have an assistant who's able to do far and exceedingly better. So like organization, I hate to admit this on YouTube, but as a realtor, organization is just not my thing. I am great with sales. I am great with making deals. I am great
with people. You're
people.
So good with people.
Thank you.
Relations.
Thank you so much. And but she is just phenomenal. She just does such a great job. And there's a principle that I talked about in episode 1, I believe it was, the 80-20 rule. And so being able to if I can just be able to do that 20%, those super important things, and like you said, hire something out to somebody who's most likely better at it than I am. Like, for example, your guys' social media person, Riley, is phenomenal at what she does.
She's so good at social media and marketing.
Yeah.
I can make a stick figure in Canva at best.
Yeah.
For me, I don't even know how to create a reel. It's bad.
Chris is my Riley. Chris is like the guy who can just do it all. He can just create anything, and you're just watching his hands move. I'm like, I don't even know what's going on. He's just making something and online. So kind of shifting gears here because I know you're a traveler, and I too am a traveler. We've been kind of around the world, and we've seen some we've been blessed. I will say, I don't take that for granted for one second, but I've been blessed, and you've been blessed to see some really incredible places, cultures. Can you tell us about some of your favorite places? And you can do multiple, your favorite places, and maybe kind of why, what they meant to you.
Yeah. So I was not a traveler pre-Hallie.
So she got you into
Hallie gave me the travel bug, and I can't get rid of it now. It's 24/7. It's stuck in me. Yeah. Hallie grew up traveling. She went to Italy the first time when she was 8, I think.
Wow.
So yeah, her family, they're big travelers. They've traveled. They've been all over the place. Hallie has been all over. I think she was in Israel when she was a teenager. At one point, she spent in Panama 1 or 2 months. I mean, as a kid, so she grew up.
Not Florida either.
Not Florida. No,
the real Panama.
The real Panama, the real one.
Yeah.
And so I was never a traveler. And Hallie, she definitely infected me, and so she's got me obsessed with it. We've been blessed to go on some amazing trips. And a lot of them, I'm going to do a quick plug here, a quick shout out shamelessly.
Go ahead.
A lot of it has been able to happen because my mother-in-law is amazing. Kristen, I know
she's in her honeymoon. Yeah.
So Kristen owns the Unpacked Suitcase. It's a travel agency. She owns it, and she is a brilliant travel planner. So she's been able to find us very unique trips at the perfect time, and she just plans out everything from your flights. When you arrive, somebody's picking you up and taking you to your resort, and the hotel you're staying at, the excursions you're doing, and all at the best deals possible. And so I want to give her a quick shout out there. A lot of these have happened because of her, but we've been blessed. We've been to Italy, France, Switzerland, Thailand, Costa Rica, Cabo, Aruba. I think that's it. I would say the most special place for us by far, it's very close between Switzerland and Italy.
Italy's incredible.
That's where you and Jack spent.
I haven't
2 weeks straight, right?
It was like 10 days.
10 days.
We were in Italy.
And how long was your honeymoon?
We actually waited. So we got married and then waited almost a year because there's so much that goes into planning a wedding and the costs and all of those different things. I did not know this until I popped the question. But there's so much that goes into that. And I was like, you know what? I want our honeymoon to also be incredible. And I don't want to just go somewhere and
I love it. Yeah.
have some beers on the beach and just be bored because I get so bored. Even on my summer vacation, like I get a gym membership. I'm reading. Yeah, I like wake up in the morning and I'm like reading and stuff. I just like I love doing what I guess I'm doing. Like I'm trying to build a life that I don't. It's not that I don't want to go on vacations or travel because those two things are different. Traveling and vacationing, they can be a little bit together.
Traveling,
you can enjoy
you're exhausted sometimes.
Yeah,
because you're not just there to like be a beach bum. Yeah, you're like
there to see new things.
We need to see this. We got to do this. We got to do this. We got to do this.
How do you feel like? So this is another question. How do you feel like traveling has impacted or changed your perspective? Like what's maybe some lessons learned? And that could be from other cultures. That could be from, so like I know one thing I noticed is in Italy and Portugal and things, they're very conservative on how they do things. They're very recycle friendly. They're very like they hang dry their clothes a lot of times.
There's a lot of traditional things do not break. It's what
correct.
You do. Yeah, so I would say Italy for sure. So Italy and Switzerland have been our favorite. My favorite place by far is Florence, Italy.
Okay.
And there's actually very specific things that clicked when we were in Florence of priceless, valuable things that Hallie and I started to implement in our lives here in Kentucky. The first thing is, this sounds kind of goofy, but we learned the value of meaningful conversations at dinner. Very specific, very out of left field. But typically
I know exactly what you're saying. I don't want
to
interrupt
where I'm going
you.
With this.
Dude, I don't know where you're going with this, but literally in Florence, Italy, my wife and I were sitting on a street corner and just seeing people, like that was such a huge, important thing. Like,
it's a part of the culture.
They hang out all the time. Like they're with their friends and they're talking and they're.
When we have a typical dinner here, like if you and I were to go out to dinner, like say we double dated, Hallie, Jackie, you and I, we go to a place. It'd be hour and a half. At some point towards the end of the meal, you look at the waiter, you wave them down, they bring you the check, and you go back your way.
Yeah.
That is not how they do it in Europe.
I found that out. Yeah.
It's normal. It's actually standard practice, if you want to say it that way, to have a 3-hour, if not longer, dinner.
Yeah.
Dinners are an ordeal. It's an event. It's a daily event. And a lot of times in Europe, they make dinner, it's an experience. It's not just sit there and you're talking, it's an experience. It's normal for the waiters to start playing instruments and clapping, and people are standing on tables, waving their napkins in circles in the air, and then you just have a little break while you're having a meal.
Yeah.
But it's 3 hours, and you never ask for the check. That's actually low key, like kind of an offense.
Yeah.
You kind of are at the mercy of the restaurant. They bring you the bill when they bring you the bill. And so
that was a culture shock for me when I got over there, and I was like,
"Can you have the dude?" And they kind of come over concerned. Like if you wave them down, they're like, it's almost like kind of disrespectful.
Yeah.
And it's kind of like
I found that out.
They looked at concerned, and the waiters or the waitresses, they come over, and when you ask them, they're like, "Okay, you're an American, you don't know anything."
Yeah.
But we learned quickly that dinner is a 3-hour experience.
Yeah.
And it forced, not forced, that's not the right word. It required constant conversation for us. Normally, Hallie and I always have amazing conversation at dinner. But when it's over 3 hours, there's no choice but to dive deep.
Yeah.
And a big thing that valued is at dinners having deep, meaningful conversations.
Yeah.
And it got to the point to where like day 3 or 4 in Europe, 3 hours would go by and we wouldn't even know it. We would have the greatest, deepest life conversations at dinner, and we would realize they would come over and be like, "Oh my gosh, it's been 3.5 hours. Where did time go?" And so since then, we try to carry that into our life here in Kentucky of not rushing dinner, making it a time to really catch up, see how we're feeling about what's going on in our work lives and our relationship lives with family. How are you feeling about this? What are your thoughts on this? And it's really made for meaningful conversation. So that's the first thing that we took back from Europe here. The next thing has been the value of walking. I know it sounds silly, but when we went to Venice, you walk everywhere. You do in Florence and Rome as well, but Venice was the first city where we did a ton of walking. And I realized I loved walking. It sounds really silly, but I just fell in love with simply walking. And since we've gotten back from that trip, it's something that Hallie and I try to apply every day in our lives. I try to walk at least 2 miles a day. If I can get 3 or more, that's a bonus, but try to get at least 2 miles a day, and I do that for the most part. But that's the second thing, is the value of walking. And then the next thing is the value of food. What's in your food?
Oh, yeah.
So this was mind-blowing. The first time we went to Italy, I kid you not, I had pasta, lasagna, steak, ice cream, or gelato, pizza.
Yeah.
Every day, multiple times a day.
And lost weight.
I lost 4 pounds. I lost 4 pounds. And so it helped me understand, okay, when we get back to Kentucky, what are the 2 things that I did here in Italy and how can I apply them? It's walking, and then it's watching what's in my food. Because Hallie and I realized, like, we're walking around and everybody, for the most part, 9 out of 10 people in Europe look great. They're in great shape. Yeah. And we're like, what are they doing? What is the secret to people?
You don't see big people, and I don't mean that in a judgmental thing, but you're just like, why? Everybody's skinny.
People look great in Europe. And so I'm like, what are they doing? And 2 of the essential things, everybody walks, and the food they eat is quality ingredients. There's no preservatives, synthetic trash, genetically modified organisms. And so that's the value of a really big thing, is coming back here, walking, and then just watching what we're eating. So that, I would say those are the big values from traveling that we've taken back.
I was giggling when you were talking about Venice, because I remember when we got there. So the streets are cobblestone, like real cobblestone, like not thick.
Yeah, no joke.
And we both had suitcases, and we're just like, and everybody could tell we're from America because my wife has blonde hair. So it's just like, I remember that. I was cracking up at that whole situation. I was like, it's one of those things. It's like, well, we're here. I'm going to walk all the way across Venice carrying my 40-pound, 50-pound, whatever bag. So kind of changing gears here a little bit. I've known you for many, many years. I met you through Seven Hills Church in Florence, Kentucky. And I remember when I first started coming there, I was just in so much different of a place than I guess where I am today. And I was just kind of in a dark place. And I look at where I am today, and I'm just so extremely grateful. I've met so many incredible people, including yourself, people that I serve with, and just some unbelievable people through the church. And somebody said one time, it's like, it's God's network, and I was like, oh, that's a really interesting way of putting it. But so can you tell us how going to Seven Hills has impacted your life? And for people who are watching and maybe another state, Seven Hills has online services. And this isn't to push anything on anybody, but I just feel like belonging to a local church that you kind of believe in is amazing. So can you tell us some of the, we'll call it positive impacts that's had on your life growing up?
Yeah, I would say, I would even go to the point of saying, in everything that God has accomplished, using me by chance, I can't do anything on my own. By the grace of God, things have gotten done. But I would say everything that God has granted me to do and accomplish thus far is a byproduct of the local church, and I'll argue anybody on that.
Yeah.
Everything I can have so many things to think back from church, but how it's blessed my life. Starting with the most important thing, it's where I found salvation. It's where I was saved. It's where I was baptized. It's where I declared my faith. But then on top of that, growing up at our church for coming up on 21 years at our church. I've grown up since I was a kid. Yeah. Being there 4 or 5 times a week, I've learned the most valuable life skills. I've learned how to properly communicate.
Yeah.
Not just on one-on-one settings, but in corporate settings or in group settings. I've learned how to problem solve. You have no choice, but like if you're helping with an event, volunteering for an event, you're working on you have to problem solve. You have to learn
sometimes outside of your comfort.
You have to learn to think outside the box. Yeah. It's like, hey, this isn't working. Okay, figure out a solution for it. Think creatively. It's taught me how to critically think. It's taught me how to work with people. Mm-hmm. People that you agree with, that you disagree with. How do you find a middle ground? It's taught me life skills that I apply every single day. Yeah. And then, of course, it's aside of salvation, baptism. I met my wife, Hallie. Yeah, that's like of course, that's one of the most important things. I met my wife. Oh yeah, my wife, who's my favorite person in the whole world, who's amazing, and so it has greatly impacted my life in every single way. And I take this to the bank. If people will give it a shot, people will find a good quality local church that preaches the word, the Bible, and doesn't, it's not getting, just keep it to the basics. Find a good local church. If you live in the tri-state area, Seven Hills is amazing. I would highly suggest it. Yeah, we're biased. We're biased, but I would challenge anybody. If you truly give, we say this at Seven Hills all the time, church 12 months of your life, you get saved, and you give church 12 months of consistency, I will guarantee your life will be so much better. Yeah. And you can take that to the bank. If someone doesn't believe me, I believe. What I would say is just give it a shot. Yeah. Give church 1 year, 12 months, every Sunday, be there and watch how it will bless your life. Yeah. That's all I'll say about that.
Yeah, that's awesome, man. Thanks for sharing that. I know it's not, being on camera and being on YouTube and all these things is, it takes a lot of courage to do that. So I appreciate you very much coming on here and being able to talk about that. So very, very grateful. And this is, I guess, kind of goes into that, but I want to separate this. It doesn't have to be separate, but talking about environments and how important those are. Can you tell us a little bit about some environments that you've created for yourself or have ended up in, and like how that's impacted your life? And that, again, that can be through Seven Hills, through friends, through family. Again, I can say for certainty there isn't a bad Lamar. I feel like your entire family is incredible. Your parents are incredible. All of their kids have done good things, and they've got hearts of gold. And so love you guys for that, for sure. And anyway, so
that's a really good question. I definitely say who you're around, your environment matters. And I'm not a wise genius at all. This is just what I've been taught. I simply apply what way wiser people than me have taught me. And it's that bad company corrupts good moral. It gets biblical. Bad company corrupts good moral. If you're around, it's a natural law at this point. If you're around people that are into negative things, and you want to define negativity, if you're around people that cheat, steal, lie, manipulate, whatever you want to consider negative, it's inevitable. If you're around that type of an environment, it's not a matter of if, it's a matter of when you become like that environment. There's no question about it. It's going to happen at some point. And so it's true. Bad company corrupts good moral. And you've probably heard this saying a million times, but it's so true. Show me your friends and I'll show you your future. Yeah. Yeah. And it makes me think of amazing podcast I listen to. It's Mentoring Moments, Pastor Marcus and Pastor Jensen Franklin. And they're talking about mentors. It's one of the first episodes. I strongly advise anyone listening to this to go listen to this. But they talk about 3 levels of relationships. And you have, the first one is a mentor. You can talk about this for a while, but long story short, you need to have a mentor. You need to have somebody that is way ahead of you in the season of life. They've accomplished what your goals are. It can be somebody in business. It can be someone at church. It can be whoever, but you need a mentor, someone that knows where you've been. They've been there. They've gotten through it, and they can speak into your life. Yeah. The second thing is you need somebody that's in the same season of life as you. Close friend. For me, I can think of, for example, in business, it's been Kyle Claxton. Kyle Claxton. Kyle. We started businesses at the same time, and it helps motivate me. It's the iron sharpens iron. Yeah. Kyle will another Luke de Benedetto. Yeah. Always challenging me, and it's that iron sharpens iron. It helps me. You need to have friends. You don't just need a mentor. You also need to have friends that are going to hold you accountable. Mm-hmm. If people that Colin Kramer and I had this conversation the other day, is one of my childhood friends. Jake Frater, I can name. I have I have really, really good friends in my life, and you need somebody that's in a similar season of life. All of these guys, we're all married, we're all about the same age, and you need somebody that you can relate to, and you can confide in them, you can talk to them. And then lastly, you need somebody that you're pouring into. Yeah. You need a mentee. Yeah. And so it just made me think of your environment. I think it's important that what does that environment look like? You need to have somebody that's a mentor. You need to have high quality friends. I agree. That in your eyes are further along in life. All those guys I mentioned, in my opinion, they're definitely further along in life than I am. And so I want to be around them as much as possible because I dearly love them. But also I know it's going to make me better. Yeah. When I'm around Jake, Luke, Colin, Kyle, those guys, it forces me to get better. Yeah. And so you have to have high quality people in your environment because that's what you'll end up becoming. Yeah. So I know for me, if you look at the math, it's simple. Those guys are awesome. Yeah. As long as I'm around those guys equals me being able to accomplish more. Yeah, so, I get that. Yeah. So that's a big thing. So that's what I'd say, the importance of your environment.
Yeah. And I think too, I mean, so oftentimes, like when you start to do something, whether it be a business or you start to try something new, there are people who will, whether they're afraid for you to move on or they're just genuinely don't want you to succeed. There are those people, whether it be through envy or whatever. So like having those friends for me that like not only want this for themselves, but they're like, come on guys, like they're like, I want to bring the team with me. I want everybody to be around me. So that circle, sure. I think I couldn't agree more. I think that is so huge. And I would say that's probably for me, probably the biggest part of an environment is having that, I'm still very, very good friends with some guys that I graduated high school with. We're in a group message. We talk every single day. Yeah. And they're all business leaders and doing different things. And I mean this in the furthest thing from like any kind of like pretension, like we think this or we're this or anything like that. It's like, no, it's an environment thing. It's like, I want to grow. And one thing that you said on this episode that I think is phenomenal is like, and I think we were talking about kind of like the watering seeds and bringing people up, having that group of friends around you that is bringing you up and that you're also like, no, I want these guys to rise up with me. So, all right. So last question here. I've known you for a very long time and I can safely say that neither of us, and I don't want to speak for you, but I know for myself, and I think I can say safely that neither of us are materials driven. And what I mean by that is I don't want to say that I'm not necessarily financially driven because I see the value in being able to help people financially and being able to create opportunities for other people. But I think a lot of people have preconceived notions about the motivations and the reasons why certain people, like for example, business owners do what they do. But truthfully, I've met some incredible business owners who are highly effective, highly successful. And when you actually get to know them and see what they're doing and what they're about, they're the most giving and generous people. And I know that's been a huge part. So for example, one of the things that our church is doing is the One Red Box. So it's like, those are literally meals that is going to a family to help feed families. And whatever the amount that I give, I feel like each year it's like, it's not enough. I know that there could be, like, if I just stretch it a little bit more, there's that many more families and stuff. So it becomes almost, I feel like honestly, like a responsibility. It's like, I want to build something up so I can help so many people. What do you feel like some of your motivators are that drive you to wake up and do what you do each and every day?
Yeah, absolutely. Of course, I don't think there's anything wrong with material things. Yeah. In my opinion, idolizing material things is where people mess up.
Correct. Yeah.
And there's so many more rewarding things with owning a business. One of them, creating quality, well-paying jobs with good work-life balance. That's Absolutely. So rewarding. Mm-hmm. Being able to offer a product or service that genuinely helps people. Yep. There's so many rewarding things, but the number one motivator, the most rewarding thing, is the generosity part of it. No question about it. What I love about our church at Seven Hills, you could talk about this literally for hours. Yeah. But you hear stories about life change every day. 40,000 families are getting Thanksgiving.
That wouldn't have that without
40,000 families, and that's simply from the generosity of church attendees.
Yeah. A group of people, and to take that even outside of, like, obviously we have, that and this isn't to interrupt you, but like whatever that group is, like getting together and saying, guys, we're going to make people's lives better around us.
And the beauty of that, and what I love about our church, it's not just a small group of people, it's so many in the church body. People coming together, working together to bless the community. I think about Christmas is coming up. Mm-hmm. They're going to be hundreds, if not thousands, of kids that wouldn't have gotten Christmas that are going to get Christmas this year. Yep. We can go further on from that. I think about schools. Yeah. All that the whole summer we have Heart for the we have Heart the City, where we're going out into the community and giving hundreds of thousands of hours. Yeah. Serving the community, serving schools, serving police officers, serving firefighters, loving on our community. Mm-hmm. When you hear stories about students that were contemplating suicide or depressed or anxious, and you hear how they're on the other side of it now, and they're living an amazing life, they're volunteering, they're serving, they have healthy relationships. How can that not motivate you? How can it not motivate you when you know that there's kids in Pakistan that would have never received proper education? We give and help with an amazing facility there that's giving kids a proper education so they can grow up, live a life that's valuable and contribute and make things valuable. I could talk about this for hours and hours and hours, but when you see generosity directly changes lives, not just here, but worldwide, how can you not want to be generous? I could talk about this for hours, but going back to material things, what's the point of it? And I really mean this. If you think about it, at the end of the day, we're going to die. Mm-hmm. I'm going to die at some point. We're going to pass away. We're going to go be with the Lord. Material things are pointless. Yeah. There's no value in it. Yeah, it gives some satisfaction here. But if you work and you start a business and all you have is financial gain and that's all you care about, at some point, let's just be real, you're not going to be on earth forever. Yeah. What's going to happen?
What did you trade your life for? Did you trade your life to impact others, or did you trade your life so that you can impress others, or whatever that is? Like,
what's the point of it? Mm-hmm. And my philosophy is, in my opinion, the whole point of being an entrepreneur and starting a business is to, yes, create jobs, stimulate the economy. Those are important things to create value for people to buy, to enhance their life, to increase their quality of life. But above all else, for me, in my opinion, I believe people are supposed to be entrepreneurs to be generous. Yeah. And I really do mean that. And I think the best way to be generous, in my opinion, is through a good quality local church. Yeah. If you find I could go out and I could spend 100 hours researching different organizations that I want to donate to or give to. But the beauty of finding a good church is if you're generous that way. Our church is doing at any moment 100 different things to help, not the community, to help the world.
Yeah.
And I really do believe, being an entrepreneur, your job, your responsibility, again, in my opinion, is to do everything you can for the kingdom with your business. Yeah. That is the sole purpose.
Yeah.
And so that's the most rewarding thing. That's the driving factor of, and I haven't done anything. I haven't accomplished really 1% of the goals that I want to accomplish. Yeah. But just to know that you're a part of something bigger, that you're joining a body of people that are all working together to enhance people's lives, to share the love of Christ.
Yeah.
That is what keeps me going.
That's awesome.
Every single day. That is, and I'm sorry. I'm
You're
just
good,
really
brother.
I'm just really passionate about it.
I love it. So. I love to see it. It's one of those things, like I said, it's not easy to come onto a podcast and talk about some of the things that we've talked about today. We both own businesses. Yeah. We very much eat what we hunt, like you said. And so it's just a blessing to be able to come on and talk with you and have you on here.
And I hope our goal from this last thought on this is I hope this will inspire other business owners, entrepreneurs that might watch this.
You can make such a difference.
If you can implement generosity, I'm telling you, you will benefit significantly. Yeah. Not just what it does for people, but for you, for your business. It's I say this again, it's natural law.
Yeah.
I've never met a person in my entire life that's successful that's not generous. Never. I have never met somebody that's successful that's not generous. Ever. I've yet to meet them.
Yeah.
And if I have met somebody that's not generous, it's because I found out one way or another that they were a scam artist, they were a con, and they lost everything. And I do know a couple of people like that. But I really do hope that this inspires people. Get involved in your local church. We're so blessed with Seven Hills where we're so involved in that. But I hope this inspires people. If you're a business owner, you're an entrepreneur, at the end of the day, yes, create jobs, stimulate the economy, create a valuable product, but be generous.
Yeah.
I'm done.
You're good. I love it, man. I love it. So I did lie, though. I got 2 more questions. I'll make them quick. Good. I'm going to make this last one into one question, actually. Okay. So it's going to be basically a run-on sentence here. So, how can our current and future listeners, it's a 2-part question. Yeah. How can our current and future listeners find you online and on social medias? And then the second question I'm going to let you follow up with is, do you have a book recommendation for our listeners today, or an Audible, or even a sermon or whatever?
Absolutely. So on Instagram, Phil Lamar is my handle, or you can follow LiveWell_Lounge. So for LiveWell, it's LiveWell_Lounge. For Facebook, just my name is on there. Broker Brothers and LiveWell Lounge have Facebook pages. So if you want to find out special offers that we're having at LiveWell or different things for Broker Brothers, you can find out what's going on there. Or you can, of course, go to brokerbrothersandco.com or livewelllounge.com. That's where you can find us there. And then book, I would say right now, the season of life I'm in, and I would go back to the Slight Edge Principle.
Slight Edge Principle.
Slight Edge Principle is, my dad had me read that when I first started getting licensed for insurance. And that book changed my entire philosophy of not just work, but life. That's what I would encourage people is read the Slight Edge Principle for an audiobook person. I've listened to the audiobook too. It's good.
Yeah.
It changed my life, and I live by the Slight Edge Principle. In fact, I actually have a reminder that goes off on my phone. I have it repeat once a week, and it randomly pop up on my phone, remember the Slight Edge. I would strongly encourage everybody to read that book. It's life-changing.
Yeah.
Very
awesome.
Good.
Thank you so much again for coming on, for all of your advice, your recommendations. I guess there you have it. I'm all out of questions. So, thank you so much again, guys, for tuning in. Phil, it's an absolute pleasure, man. Thank you again for coming on. Yeah. I know you got a busy life, and, you've got all these different things coming on. So to come on and bless our listeners, it's a pleasure. I can say with certainty that most people are going to be blessed by this video. So again, guys, until next time, please feel free to check in with us on Facebook at the Pursuing Happiness podcast page. Leave us a like and subscribe to us if you'd like recent updates on videos. And as always, guys, I hope you have a great day, a wonderful week, and a happy life. Until next time.